From the last video, let's say if I choose English, it will return the ink column and the row will be 0. If I pick Japanese, then my column will be Jap and my row will be 1. For Chinese, it will be Chinese and row number 2. In between, I figure out a quicker way than this so that we can directly return the row index. Let me try it out in Python idle because I don't want to mess up with my app script. Simply activate the virtual environment. This is my environment. Feel free to change it to yours. Here I just quickly open up the Python idle. This is the language CSV file that we'll be working on. Just name it data and read the file location. Import pandas as PD. Assign lang to be the language table. Then pd.read CSV as this is a CSV file. Read the data. Here is the language, which is what you saw the app thing at the very beginning. Here you go. Just show it side by side. Let's get started. Assign the variable lookup text for our target. Let's say we are looking for Nihongo, Japanese. Here the lookup text just mimics the app's language selection dropdown. Nihongo language dot look. Here X and Y, where X is the row and Y is the column. The row will be this one that corresponds to Japanese rate. Index 1. Y is the column, which is this the Japanese column. It has to be a string. Since I'm doing it in idle, you won't see interface like this. Just pretend you've picked Japanese, so the lookup text is Japanese. In order to look up for the row, we expect to return 1, right? Our last video told us to identify the column first, which is the Jap column. Then from that Jap column, we get the row 1. But actually, we have alternative way to do it. Let's say language, which is our data source, stored in variable lang, like this. Language.equal our lookup text. Let me show you. It should be this true here, which comes from here, the original data table. Language equal, just give it a name so that we don't need to type language.equal again and again. So we can work on the variable row to manipulate that true and false thing. Row.any, and remember to set the axes. Let's say 1. That means we skip the column names, these ones. Then we should return 0, 1, 2. Let me see. I don't quite remember. Yep, this is just like the Japanese column, false, true, false. That corresponds to 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. We might need to name it first like this. Here is the row. In the row square bracket itself, and it will be like this. Why is it like that? Because everything in the bracket must be true. Since 1 is true, so it appears. If I row bracket row dot index, then it will be the object like we saw before. If I row bracket row dot index, put in 0 to grab the first item, which is 1. Let's see how I apply this technique in our app. Actually, it's in this part, lookup row. Let me comment it out. Just like self.row, here I create a class called allLookup, which is shown down below. That we call it out, the lookup row function. This self.row will be equal to self.table name. This table name refers to this one above, where the Lookups class attribute table name is run here. Here table name is equal to the language, which we named it lang before. Here we refer to the class Lookup that refers to the language table dot lookup row that runs the lookup row instance. Dot table name, lookup text, lookup our target text, self dot target text. I'm not sure. This target text is defined above. Just give it a try. Doesn't matter. Here, comment it out. Simply language row. It will be easier to follow. Save it. This area should be modified. Rerun. Oops, how come? Let me see. Got it. I did something silly. Give it a text, whatever. Then this will show whatever, right? We were working on the language table, right? So we self.table name dot equal our target text. This target text is defined here. Okay, target text, save it. Then you'll see this true and false table where Jap is true. Just like this Japanese column is true and row equals 1. If I pick English, the column ENG is true and row index is 0. Just check Japanese. Oh, I remember. Dot any, save it. Then you'll see this one with the column names as the index, which isn't what we want. Change it to axis equals 1. Like I said, equals 1 will skip the columns, only rows left, which is 0, 1, 2 here. Remember, we only need the true one, not the whole thing. So self.row equals self.row itself, square bracket itself to return this true row. Save, here you go. Then dot index, save, and it will return the index object. So put in 0, this is the 1. Alright, we can restore this part of the code. This part in the language row is calling from the Lookup class to retrieve the language table. So you see table name equals lang, which is this language table. Within this language table, we can look up row, which is this part. Here we make the target text that we retrieve here. The target text, just add it back target text like this. Now we try English. The column will be ing and the row will be 0. Chinese, then the column will be chi and the row will be 2. That's pretty much it. Ciao.